This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them long, long logi, now you got them bungalow. Long time got them long, long logi, now you got them bungalow. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. Long time got them dirty dam, now you got them concrete road. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them jug jug lamp, now you got them electric light. Long time got them jug jug lamp, now you got them electric light. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad broad bottom, now you got them tight tight straight. Long time got them broad broad bottom, now you got them tight tight straight. Long time got them broad broad bottom, now you got them tight tight straight. Long time got them broad broad bottom, now you got them tight tight straight. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time got them broad broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. Long time got them broad broad churia, now you got them bamboo jai. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not a before time. Long time full and bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full and bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full and bucket water, now you got them overhead. Long time full and bucket water, now you got them overhead.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you once again for affording me the opportunity to be in your space so that we can be able to understand what really is happening in Guyana as it relates to politics. I am your host, Dinesh Jaiprashad, and welcome once again to the Dinesh Jaiprashad Show on 107.1 FM. Um, Tonight's program will be a very educational program, and a few minutes from now, we'll be having MP Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel, who will be taking us through a lot of important events surrounding the legal fraternity and what is happening in Guyana as it relates to politics and development. I must say special thanks to 107.1 for affording me the opportunity, Mark and team for ensuring that every Tuesday time is allocated so that I can be able to bring the to our viewers and listeners what really is happening in Guyana, what really is happening in region number 6, and most importantly, what are our plans so that we can be able to condition your mind and program your mind and say to you the things that we will be doing so that come next election we will take the PVP out of government. I am very much privileged tonight to say to you that please have hope. Do not give up. And we know that the rate the PVP is operating, definitely good things coming ahead. I must say that the PVP is hitting a strong message to their support base, and their support base are complaining to us bitterly as to what really is happening. I must say that every day we, the opposition MP and the opposition councillors throughout the NDCs, the RDCs, and the township, the municipalities are receiving complaints day after day as it relates to one, the issue of GPL. GPL is getting back to the days of the PVP. prior to 2015. So the minister responsible for the operations at GPL, please, sir, let's get it in order. Whenever we had a blackout, when it was APNU AFC time, everybody will kick up a big brawl. Everybody on social media, on Facebook, everywhere, you know, blaming and cussing down. It is happening. It is happening now more rampant. So I am hoping that our brothers and sisters can be a bit more vocal and hear the concern as to what really they are facing with GPL. I must say, as it relates to GWI, GWI, the water giant, it is very, very sad that we are receiving poor quality water in Berbice. And I am appealing. I am appealing to the relevant authorities. I am appealing to the Minister, Housing and Water. The ministers, please ensure that the people receive value for their money. We are paying our dues every month. The citizens of this country are paying their dues every month. And when you bring that poor quality of water, one, the pressure is low. Two, the quality of the water is not up to standard. We are paying for treated water. And sometimes we have the trench water running in the tap. This is not right. This is robbing poor people. And when you rob poor people, you know what happens. I'm saying to the ministers responsible for water in this country, stop, take a back step, and listen to the poor people of this country. Listen to the plight of the poor people. The rich man drive to the supermarket and buy the bottled water. That is what they drink. The poor taxpayers of this country drink that water running from the tap. Or as we would say, they drink the pipe water. So I'm appealing to you, if you really appreciate and love the poor people of this nation, ensure that they receive proper quality. Ensure that they receive the service that is there, that they are supposed to offer to the poor people of this nation. Every month or quarterly, people are paying their water bills. They are paying their dues. And you are not offering a proper service. You know, people can take so much and no more. And we know when the people will start to get angry, you know, God forbid that, but you know, don't push the poor people to the limit. Government officials, if they are paying for the service, please give them the service that they deserve. I'm saying that we have had better water service prior 2020. 2015 to 2020, we have had a better water service than 2020 to now. So if you have condemned the AP and UAFC for their quality and level of water, then you must bring better service to the people. And we are seeing that that is not happening right now. The people are suffering. That is why they are complaining to us, because they are saying that they do not have any faith with the PPP councillors and the PPP leaders in the various district and regions. That is why they are coming to us. That we know that you are the opposition. We want you to talk about this. So Albion, Kilkay, Chesney, Hampshire, Port Morant, all these areas have complained because they are receiving water from the Rosa plant. Get it right. Get it right. So, brothers and sisters, 107.1 on the ground, Facebook, live, wherever you are, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for listening. And most importantly, thank you for spreading the word. Share the link, spread the word so that we can be able to reach as much people we can reach. That is our objective. Spread the word. My job here is to bring to you what is happening so that you will be able to make the right choice. AP and UAFC had some bad decision and choices. That's why we are out of government, we are opposition. And we know that the people are very smart. From the time the government plays crazy, you know what you got to do. Election coming soon. And that is what we want. We want the people to decide who must rule them, who must govern them. And if you are not pleased with the services that the public servants are giving, when I say public servants, I mean the ministers and the member of parliaments and so forth. When you are not pleased with their services, then you know that you have to vote them out next election. So the word for the week is very much associated with the PPP government, and that is incomplete. A good friend of mine, colleague, was we were having a discussion a few days ago, and he was saying that you need to bring this up. The government is an incomplete government because everything they have promised you, the people of Guyana, is incomplete. All the things that they have started is still incomplete. So, my good friend, my brother, thank you very much. The word for this administration is an incomplete government. I must say that prior to the campaign, when the campaign time was coming up, prior to the election, it was a big story. All the estates will be up and running as soon as they get into office. It is still incomplete. It is still incomplete. Sugar is still incomplete. Scotland factory is still incomplete. Rose Hall Estate Kanji is still incomplete. How more will you? What more will you say to the sugar workers? What more will you say to the poor people of this country? What more you will say? What other promise will you bring that you're going to open it by the end of the 5 year? That's an incomplete story. So you made a promise to the people that you're going to fix the industry. What is going on? We know that a few days ago, the vice president came in to Borbis, and he was, in big meeting everywhere, um, saying that all the workers who received severance services were terminated from the Guyana Sugar Corporation, that they will receive additional bonus of a grant of 250,000. What about the ordinary sugar workers who are taking the heat, the pressure in the field? They are valuable as well. You are giving 250,000 to people who are into something already. They receive a severance. Some of them back on the job. Some of them getting other things. They're doing other things, and now you're giving them another 250. But the sugar workers who have been slaving in the industry, the sugar workers who have been slaving in the industry, you are not giving them a 250,000. You did not increase their pay as what you promised. So I am saying again, pay increase is incomplete. This is what the PPP is doing. Before the election, the PPP promised everybody gonna get pay increase. Public servant, 2 budget, blank, incomplete increase, blank. Sugar workers, who are the backbone for the PPP, they were promised that they will receive a better working condition and better salary, better wage. And to date, it is incomplete. This government started so many things, and still they are yet to complete on what they have started. I must pause to say special good night to my colleague Roysdale Ford, Senior Council MP. Good night, my brother.
Hey, good night, my brother. And thank you for
How
having me on
have you been
the show.
doing?
Keeping at it.
All is well?
Quite busy, as you know, Dinesh.
Hello? Are you getting me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, Dinesh. You hearing me?
Okay, thank you. Yes, yeah. Thank you for being on the program tonight. As I was saying, that a friend of mine said a few days to me that this government is an incomplete government. They promised the people about the sugar industry. It is not yet running, incomplete. They promised them about jobs, 50,000 jobs, nothing happening, incomplete. They promised them about house lots, incomplete. They promised the sugar worker about pay hike. But what they have done is that they have given the people who receive severance, some of them are back in the sugar corporation, and they are giving them now another 250,000. I am saying that they have promised the workers there who have been slaving day after day that they will give them, as soon as they get into office, a pay increase. And to date, they are still waiting for that. So I'm saying that it is a lot of incompleteness happening with this administration. We know that the cash grant, the first COVID cash grant, people still have pink slip, incomplete. The flood relief, there's a big fraud. Flood relief fraud, incomplete. So a lot of things happening with this government that, telling the people that they are not capable, they are not competent of managing and taking this country forward. So I want to allow you, Senior Counsel, to explain to us as to the legal happenings with regards the matter that was before the court, and explain to the population what really went on there, and what is our position and how we take it from there. Over to you.
But Dinesh, thank you for having me and allowing me this opportunity. Dinesh, I agree with you completely. They're incomplete. They're not just incomplete in projects, Dinesh. They're incomplete in ideas. They can't conceive and implement clear plans.
Thank you.
They can't produce, conceive, and present clear pieces of legislation. Um, Dinesh, you would have been with us in Parliament when they brought the amendment. I think something is wrong here with my camera. Sorry about that. When they brought the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act of 2021. And Dinesh, we, on our side of the House, indicated to them at the time that it was unconstitutional, that it cannot stand, and it will not be allowed on our part. I remember all of us, myself, Kemraj, Ramchatan, today's his birthday, happy birthday to Kemraj, all standing up and debating this and making it very clear to them, that it was unconstitutional. But Dinesh, the history of this matter goes back about 20 years. It goes back to the fact that in around 2000 or 2001, the Constitution was amended to introduce a new article, Article 222A of the Constitution, which provided for the first time for the financial autonomy and independence of constitutional agencies. The PPP never did anything, Dinesh, to implement it. So, as you said earlier, we're speaking of incompleteness. For years, they never put in place the legislation that is needed to really and truly ensure that constitutional agencies are actually given this financial autonomy and independence that would be contemplated. So again, Dinesh, in keeping with what you were saying so far, there's a great degree of incompleteness. Then we go to the period of 2011 to 2015, the period in which APNU AFC controlled the majority of seats in parliament. And the Guyanese people have to understand which political party in this country genuinely has the best interests of the people of this country
Of the people.
at heart. In 4 years, on at least 4 to 5 occasions, the APNU AFC produced motions, and I believe on one occasion actually passed a bill to give effect to the constitutional agencies having this functional and financial autonomy as contemplated by Article 222 of the Constitution. And you know what, Dinesh? You know what happened? Donald Ramotar, as the said president, at the time, the sitting president then, refused to consent, refused to give his approval or his assent as required by the Constitution to that particular piece of legislation. But in 2015, after APNU AFC won the elections in 2015, one of the very first pieces of legislation that would have been introduced was this very Fiscal Management and Accountability Act of 2015. And that is the act, Dinesh, that the PPP sought to repeal among the very first pieces of legislation that they had in 2021. Act number 1 of 2021. So we've been able to see, the Guyanese people have been able to put down side by side what matters to these two distinct political parties. On the PPP, we see that they want to have absolute control and domination of every sector of the country, including even the constitutional agencies that the Constitution says must be independent and must be left alone. And on the other hand, Dinesh, you have the APNU AFC as a political entity among the very first acts saying to the Guyanese people and demonstrating it by legislation that the constitutional agencies must be allowed to function independently. Now, when we use that as a barometer of democracy, the APNU AFC, by what they did and the legislation that they passed, would be infinitely superior. So, Dinesh, I have to explain now what actually happened in 2021. The PPP wanted to have absolute control over these constitutional agencies. So they passed the bill, the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act of 2021. And this act had a number of serious and far-reaching consequences. The first is that it altered the mechanism under which the constitutional agencies are required to receive the funding. The Constitution says, whether we like it or not, and the PPP obviously disliked it, the Constitution says that the constitutional agencies the expenditure must be prepared by them, it must be approved by them, it must be submitted to the National Assembly, and then it is a direct charge when it is approved, and they get the money right away. And they go about spending it how they want to spend it.
How they want to spend it, right?
These are characteristics that are very much in keeping with the philosophy of the APNU AFC and very inconsistent with that of the PPP. And that is why they passed this further amendment in 2021. The other dangerous thing, Dinesh, that this act did was to make constitutional agencies budget agencies. Now, the public will want to know, what's the difference? Constitutional agency, budget agency, what's the difference? The budget agencies are the ministries and organizations that fall under ministerial control. So they passed this act, making constitutional entities, putting them into the schedule of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, making them basically departments of government. And consequently, by Section 14 of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, that section says that once you've been named as a budget agency and your name fall within this schedule at the back of the act, we call it the schedule at the back of the act, you have to get the approval and consent of the minister in relation to your budget. Do you understand the danger there, Dinesh?
True.
So we
minister control everything.
Exactly. So imagine Nandalal, he's the minister in charge of the judiciary. That is so nonsensical and stupid that we can't allow it to happen. Apart from it being nonsensical and stupid and it being unconstitutional, it is a dangerous development. But it is the sort of development that the PPP would love. They want to have control of
Yeah, yeah.
everything.
They
So
will want to
really,
have
Dinesh,
control, and we see how they're going now, that they will want to have control over all the agencies to direct as to what really,
and that is why, Dinesh, we file these proceedings. We file them against the Attorney General and the Minister of Finance. And because of the nature of the proceedings, we had to list about 17 to 19 other entities who are constitutional entities and who would have been affected by this egregious piece of legislation. And they would have been the Judicial Service Commission, the Public Service Commission, the Teaching Service Commission, the Public Service Appellate Tribunal, the Guyana Elections Commission, the Office of the Ombudsman, the Ethnic Relations Commission, the Human Rights Commission, the Women and Gender Equality Commission, the Indigenous Peoples Commission, the Rights of the Child Commission, the Chamber of the DPP, the Director of Public Prosecutions, the Auditor General's Office, the Supreme Court, Parliament Office, the Speaker, and the Clerk of the National Assembly. But apart from the fact that this was filed by our colleague MP and our fellow MP, Ganesh Mahipal, it was also filed in the name of Coretta MacDonald, who's the General Secretary and a Member of Parliament on our side of the Guyana Teachers Union, Don Gardiner, the first Vice President of the Guyana Public Service Union. But it was also filed on behalf of the Chairman of the Public Service Commission and the Chairman of the Teaching Service Commission and a member of the Police Service Commission. So, Dinesh, what you had here was a collection, a putting together of a wide range of people with a common interest in ensuring that the PPP's march, at least in this respect, towards a dictatorial state would have been curbed. And I'm happy to tell you today, Dinesh, and I believe the country is well aware that the proceedings were successful, contrary to what the Attorney General is saying, that he won the case. He's saying that he won the case. And I'll get into the judgment and demonstrate that is another act of insanity on the part of the installed
exactly.
government and the installed Attorney General. But as I said earlier on another show, Dinesh, and I believe it's very important to point out, that this case involved the judges, the Judicial Service Commission, and the Supreme Court. And Dinesh, this is one of the first times, I believe, probably in the Commonwealth, at least for sure in Guyana, that the judiciary had to go to court to defend its independence, had to go to court. And it's very important, Dinesh, that the people understand that the judiciary did something very remarkable. Of the 19 or 20 respondents listed here, the Judicial Service Commission and the Supreme Court, that would be the 3rd and 17th respondents, participated in this court matter. Retained a lawyer, Senior Counsel Fraser, produced submissions, and those submissions indicated to the court and were very similar to the submissions that I presented to the court and our team presented to the court to say that the government was wrong. So the judiciary came to court to defend itself against the Attorney General, against the Minister of Finance, against the government of Guyana, to say you are breaching our rights under the Constitution. So this is a highly charged case and a highly significant case. And Dinesh, you would recall that the installed president and his cabinet and government and Mark Phillips, the installed prime minister, used the fact that the members of the Police Service Commission joined in this piece of litigation, and that was one of the reasons why they should have been removed from office. Well, the court spoke yesterday, Dinesh, and the court recognized not only that the litigation would have had merit, but by virtue of finding that it had merit, the court is saying to the government that the basis upon which you remove these commissioners and the chairman of the Police Service Commission for the involvement and support of litigation that we agree in now, because the court has given its imprimatur, its approval and consent as set out in its judgment, that you're wrong to have removed them. So we see there, Dinesh, another aspect, another manifestation of the dictatorial tendency.
of the
And that is a
PPP.
matter that is still in the court. So Dinesh, we had Anil Nandalal parading earlier tonight on his unruly horse show, whatever nonsensical name it has, or issues in the news or whatever, engaging in deliberate acts of misrepresentation, which we have known he's quite capable of. And he's saying that he won the case, right, Dinesh? He won the case. Now, he would make history again as being the first attorney general who would go to court to defend the state, and the state rule that the legislation that he is seeking to defend is unconstitutional, and he won the case.
And you won the case.
It has got to be insanity. But they're so desperate not to stand up and defend their record. And Nandalal's record so far has been one of seeking to defend Onij Waldron to be a member of the National Assembly when she was not. The court ruled against them. In relation to the parliamentary secretaries, he came to court seeking to defend that record. The court ruled against him. So that is his record. So he's very touched now, right? That this is the third one that he would have lost in a matter of months. But he's doing nonsense. He can't expect the judges, right, to backflip to help him, especially in relation to serious incursions on the Constitution. So Dinesh, this is what Nandalal is saying that he won. Now, yesterday, when the judgment was delivered, administratively or for some reason, the media was not allowed to be in the virtual session. That is what I learned from members of the media or media personnel after. But he took the opportunity in the absence of the media to put out a statement that is very misleading, and I believe it caused a few media entities who have since contacted me after and expressed regret as to the misleading nature of the articles to go the wrong way. And he took advantage of that. But today, the judge actually released his entire judgment. And I'm going to point out very briefly, as I did on another show, Dinesh. I hope I'm not taking up a lot of your
No. This is what the people want to know. That is why, you know, you are here tonight to share with the people what really is happening. And God help us if the PPP has its way in controlling all these bodies. If they are to control the bodies, then we know what will happen. The minister will dictate everything in this country. And these constitutional bodies must operate independently of political interference. So you go right ahead and explain to us. The people wants to know. So, you know, you bringing this to the people will reaffirm their belief in APNUAFC, that we are a party, we are a movement for the poor people of this country, and not just a few elites, rich businessmen, and, you know, these guys. So you go ahead. Yeah, you go ahead.
Before I continue, and you have mentioned something very important there that I was going to deal with, but I plan to deal with it now. I mentioned, Dinesh, that we also filed this court matter against the Parliament Office, the Speaker and the Clerk of the National Assembly. And the Speaker, the Parliament Office, and the Clerk of the National Assembly took the ridiculous position, Dinesh, that the bill that was clearly unconstitutional was constitutional. I mentioned this, you know, Dinesh, for this important reason, that ultimately the Speaker of the National Assembly does not conduct himself in a fair and impartial manner. He does not conduct himself in a manner befitting the office. And I believe all he would have done in Parliament, all he would have said, all the ridiculous rulings he would have made, and in my opinion, and I'm entitled to say that, the position adopted in this manner clearly shows that he is a mere instrumentality of the state of the government of Guyana. Because listen to this, Dinesh. The judiciary, which is one of the three arms of the state, together with the legislature and the executive took the fundamental position that it was wrong. Certainly, the speaker must know that this would have been wrong, but nevertheless, they went ahead. They went ahead determined to ensure that this law was passed to achieve what? Before I go to the judgment, Dinesh, to achieve what? We filed this matter in February. The law would have been passed sometime early February, around the 7th or 9th of February. By the 25th of February, for sure, this matter was filed. Today's what? Yesterday was the 11th of October, the judgment was delivered. They took advantage of the litigation process of 8 or 9 months to raid the Treasury. They took the opportunity over this period here to control the constitutional agencies in the manner that they wanted. So, in one way, they achieved their unlawful and dangerous objectives. But it has come to an end because the court has now ruled against them, and Nandalal is pretending that he won the case. At page 27 of the judgment, Dinesh, I'm going to just read a few quick paragraphs so the public will be settled in their mind as to the dishonesty and the misrepresentations that Nandalal and company would be circulating. At page 27 of the judgment, this is what the judge says. To the extent, however, that there be a requirement for any approvals by the sector ministers before transmission to the minister assigned the responsibility for finance in order to become part of the process for the determination of Guyana's national budget, any such approvals will be violative of Articles 122A, 212G, and 222A of the Constitution, and it is so declared. So obviously, the judge is making a declaration against the validity of the legislation that Nandalal brought. The court is ruling against them, but he's saying he won the case. Then on the same page at the bottom, the judge says this. Further, this court is of the view that Article 222A removes the Ministry of Finance and the executive from all decisions regarding spending by the constitutional entities of an approved budget. You hear that, Dinesh?
Correct.
The entities are assured financial autonomy with respect to their spending. This court is of the view, or the further view, that by declaring such spending to be by way of a direct charge on the consolidated fund, the article removes the necessity for compliance with the ordinary legislative scheme and other requirements with respect to government spending, and it is so declared. The court is declaring that this is the law, that what you pass is a set of nonsense. Then the court goes on to say, at page 28, Dinesh, to reject the arguments of Nandalal. The court says the contention by the Attorney General in support of the 2021 amendments that Article 171(2) of the Constitution is helpful to the argument that the National Assembly will not permit a draw on public funds by a bill unless recommended by the Cabinet, as signified by the ministers noted. However, this court is of the view that Article 171(2) is not relevant in the context of the discussion surrounding Article 222A. The court is rejecting Nandalal's arguments here. And the last two paragraphs I want to bring to the public's attention, Dinesh, is paragraphs on page 29. The court says, however, to the extent that Section 7 of the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act inserts the constitutional agencies into the schedule of the Principal Act, that is the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, it is violative of the letter and spirit of Article 222A and the third schedule of the Constitution. And a declaration is made in this regard. So again, the court is making here, I believe, a third declaration against the state, a third declaration against this government, this installed government, and rejecting by a third declaration the legislation being unconstitutional that Nandalal brought, that Nandalal created. This is Nandalal's brainchild. He must hug it, keep it, and hug it up. and he must accept the responsibility for the nonsense that he brought to the National Assembly.
Exactly. Exactly.
The very next paragraph says, additionally, to the extent that the 2021 budget was prepared, approved, and disbursed to the constitutional agencies, further to the mechanism set out under the Fiscal Management and Accountability Act, as amended by Act Number 1 of 2021, Nandalal's Act, this court is of the view that the budgetary process of those agencies would have conflicted with Article 222A, and a declaration is made in this regard. So it can't be clearer, Dinesh, that the court would have rejected the validity of the amendment brought by Nandalal as the Attorney General and passed by the National Assembly. Passed by the National Assembly against the cries and the demands and solid and sound arguments by myself and the other members of the opposition. So we have a situation here, Dinesh, that this law has been set aside, it has been put out. This is another major embarrassment for this installed government. It is another major embarrassment for Nandalal, and it's another major embarrassment for the country as a whole, because the international community would be judging, and making continuous assessments on the nature of the democracy and the incursions made by this installed government. So that is where we are on these issues.
I think that is very appropriate and timely to make the people understand that these constitutional bodies, these constitutional entities manage themselves. And what the PPP was trying to do there is to take control of these entities, so that they can manipulate and do whatever they want to do with it. But I'm happy that the judges took it that route, and your arguments bear fruit for us in this country, and that is the way forward. We know that you have been doing a lot of work for us as the APNUAFC, and you are the helm of the legal fraternity for us, indicates that good things are coming ahead as it relates to the many other matters that are pending, and so would you like to say anything about our court petition as it relates to the election story and so?
Definitely, that's what I was going to deal with next.
Okay.
The election petitions are currently in the form of appeals, currently in the Court of Appeal. The one appeal that we filed, that is yet to be heard, and a date is still to be decided by the Court of Appeal to have the preliminary hearings conducted in relation to that. But in relation to the other appeal, the appeal in relation to the fact of whether the elections recount led to a proper result, and whether a government or the PPP itself could have been installed and take office on the basis of the recount, that is currently being heard in the Court of Appeal. I believe it comes up on the 26th or the 29th of October before the Court of Appeal. At that stage, the court is likely to fix a date for a hearing or a decision in relation to arguments raised by Mr. Nandalal and counsel similar who take that similar view. The arguments before the Court of Appeal in relation to that matter center around the fact that they are saying that once an election petition would have been dismissed for any reason without the judge taking evidence, that you cannot appeal. That is the end of your petition, and you must go home. Again, Dinesh, we take the view that that is a very ridiculous proposition. Just simply saying it, even in the dark by yourself, should scare you. We will have, despite the best appointments that can be made, Guyana has always had judges who will try to conduct themselves in relation to the law. And by way of human nature, you will have judges who may well be inclined to make decisions that are not necessarily based on sound jurisprudential basis or qualifications. And that is why the Constitution and the legal system recognize that even when honestly done, or even when done under a misconception, deliberate or not, that you have the avenue to appeal. So we believe that in relation to an election petition, there is no basis for concluding that an appeal would not exist. However, regard to the fact that this relates to the very governance of the country. So if a judge just simply decides, Judge Ada simply decides, I don't like APNU or I don't like PPP, and dismiss a petition, that is the end of it. That is the sort of sound logic that is escaping Mr. Nandalal and his team, and we see what that sort of sound logic would actually do. The court would have rejected that sort of logic.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I must say that indeed tonight's discussion has been fruitful. What do you have to say to our supporters, viewers, people who are, experiencing this first year of the PPP? And as I was indicating earlier, a lot of their supporters are complaining to us as to the rough treatment that they are receiving, cost of living going up, big fraud with the flood relief. Poor people who really needed this 50,000, this 100,000, not getting it. But friends and associates are receiving millions. And we know, Rysdale, when your neighbor gets something that they don't deserve, everybody gonna talk about it. And that is what is happening in the villages. The people are busting up the bags. The people are exposing what is happening. And the PPP should, if they have some shame, should come out and say, here what happened. Let us give everybody who deserve whatever they deserve, and let the people be satisfied. Let the people be satisfied. But they are not doing that. They are holding to just the few that they want to share the resources to. To date, I was informed that the vice president came a few days ago, and he set up now 3 offices because of the constant complaints coming from the opposition and some of their own associates in the region. Continuous complaint, continuous Facebook posts and comments, and so the VP instructed that 3 offices be set up in Region 6, New Amsterdam, Albion Sports Complex, and at 63, Benap, somewhere there, to take the complaints from the people who were affected. Just imagine, flood relief, they came and they shared money 4 times in the region. 4 times in the region. And now, Barjagdev came, the Honorable Barjagdev came and set up 3 offices because they can't bear the embarrassment that the poor people, exposing as to what really is happening with the flood relief. What is your take on it? Do you have any information that you want to share with us? Any points?
Yes, certainly, Dinesh. My information is very similar to yours. But Dinesh, the important thing in this country is that the people must understand, the Guyanese people must understand, irrespective of race, that 2 things. One, that the PPP has not changed. The PPP will never change. And the PPP cannot change. And once we understand that, Dinesh, as the basis, we will make sound decisions that will benefit our children and our grandchildren, our great-grandchildren, our country as a whole, irrespective of race, Dinesh, irrespective of which part of the country you live. And the other thing that the people are currently experiencing, Dinesh, is that they're seeing and finally recognizing, and this is not APNU, AFC, and PNC, they have to do anything. APNU, AFC, they have to go and march up and down in the streets. APNU, AFC didn't go and create no disturbance in the country. They're saying that the PPP simply do not care about the ordinary people in this country.
So true.
The cost of living has increased between 6 to 14%. People are not receiving increase in salaries, and that more importantly, Dinesh, And you will see it in your community that, and people are seeing it across the country, and they're calling and they're speaking about it, just as you're saying. The party, the PPP, has become a party of the few. The few people that they want to give out resources to, the few that they want to give contracts to, the few that they want to give lands to, and they want to hold up the few as the basis of their good work. But it can't work, Dinesh, because people are being deprived and people are hungry, people are frustrated, people are depressed, people cannot take care of their families. But I'm not surprised, Dinesh, and I believe that the Guyanese people are finally coming
So true.
around and settled in their minds that whilst the APNU AFC was not a perfect government, and I'm not going to say that my party was a perfect government, but what I'll say, Dinesh, is that it was a highly superior government, a highly more equitable government, and a highly more fair government across the length and breadth of this country. And the Guyanese people are going to reject and continue to reject the PPP. And therefore, the things that are currently happening in the communities, he could set up 19 offices. It will not work. Even if the people turn up to the 19 offices that he planned to set up and they take what is they're entitled to, because the PPP is not doing them a favor by giving out any of these grants and these lands and these flood reliefs or whatever they give. They're not doing anybody a favor. The people are entitled to it, the people should take it, and the people should vote them out, and the people will vote them out.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know that the comments coming into the program tonight is very much encouraging, and I know that you will have to come again probably next week or the other week so that we can be able to continue this trend of discussion. A lot of our viewers really understand what really happened with the Fiscal Management or Accountability Act now, and how until what happens in the future, these agencies will be in proper administration and management. We do not want political interference. Let the people manage themselves basically in these commissions and constitutional entities. And to our viewers, listeners, we have had Roysdale Ford, Senior Counsel MP, who has been in the forefront of um, the leadership of APNU AFC in Parliament. He is one of the stalwart who have been holding the coalition together along with others. And I know that with what he is doing, he will continue to put Guyana um, first in terms of service delivery. So to you, sir, thank you very much for having you tonight. It is a pleasure, and we know that this was long overdue, but because of so many difficulties, but um, there is always a correct time for whatever is to happen, and must happen. So thank you very much for being on tonight's program. Any closing remarks? Anything you want to say to our viewers and listeners?
Thank you very much, Dennis, for having me on your show, and thank you for the kind words. And I want to thank you for having me on this show. I want you to know that I'm prepared to come back um, once you inform me. I'll come back on your show. I believe that this is the first of many occasions I'll get to know um, the views of people in a wider cross section of the country. And I also want to thank you for the work that you've been doing in the community. I believe that you are outstanding. You're an outstanding member of parliament. Um, and I believe that the work that you're doing is critical to elucidating the issues, making people in your part of the country understand the challenges that they're up against, letting them understand the misrepresentations. And I believe that you're doing a phenomenal job. I would also like,
Thank
whether
you.
it is convenient, Dinesh, for you to invite me up to Region 6 and let us walk the place. Let us go and meet the people, um, and let us go into the communities. This is the work that we have to do, and I look forward to doing it with you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We do look forward for that. Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
So, viewers, listeners, thank you very much. 107.1. It was a wonderful program tonight. Thanks for your support. Please make contact with us whenever you have any information, and we will keep in touch. Mark Wenchkamp and team, thank you very much. Viewers, listeners everywhere, God bless. Stay safe. Please protect yourself and family. If you have not taken your vaccine as yet, get it now, and stay home, sanitize, mask up. COVID deaths is now 844, 844 deaths. It is no game. It is no show. It is real business. 750,000 people in Guyana, and we have 844 deaths. Next week we will be having a wonderful program, and some very phenomenal individuals are coming our way to help us in Guyana, help us feed people in need. And the person who is the mastermind for this helping agency is Gordon Dummett, and you can reach him at 622-5741-661-6666. And he is the individual who, with others, put together this organization, and they will help us to help our brothers and sisters. So next week they will be on the program. From now to next week, find them on Facebook and make contact. Thank you very much. God bless. Stay safe. Thank you.
This ain't a long time, this ain't a long time, this not there before.